done. And he says, am I my brother's keeper?
Yeah.
You're asking me. So he disconnected himself, didn't want to own up to what he was doing,
Right.
but yet can say, "What am I? My brother's keeper?" Well, yes, as brothers and sisters, regardless of our race, with our ethnic backgrounds, when a person hurts, we should hurt.
Right.
When a person is going through something, not necessarily taking on their burden, right?
But you should be able to empathize with them.
To be able to empathize with them and be able to say right is right and wrong is wrong. And can I see myself in that right is right and wrong is wrong, to be an additional voice to say this person's pain is all of our pain, because whether it happens in whatever community, whether it's the Black community, the Hispanic community, the white community, but that we could collectively say as a mother, as a father, I can relate to you.
Right.
As a sister, as a brother, I can relate to you. So therefore, I, take on the charge with you. How can we change this and make this situation better?
No doubt. That's the truth. That's one thing I see in people, that they can't seem to empathize with others. It's really strange. I don't know how we get back to where we were. I know it's possible, and I know we have to, because if we don't, we're not going to have the American society that we know, that we're used to.
I think it starts individually.
That's true.
And as one person changes, and that person impacts others to want to be more, do more, and stop breaking down and putting down, but building up.
Do you think we're losing?
And so that's really.
Do you think we're losing the motivation for individualistic change, because everything is such a social environment now, whether it's social networks or, just people are always around people nowadays. So do you think we're losing the sense to want to change individually?
I don't think it's a situation of saying a person is saying, give you an example, who really gets up in the morning and says, I'm going to go out and hurt somebody today. Or I'm going to get up and I'm going to go rob a store today. Now, some people might, but the average person is not going to say, I'm going to go out and do this today.
Well, right.
So I don't think that it's something that we actively say I'm going to do. I think it's something that has happened.
Right. But I mean,
when you look,
but I'm going by when you said, because you were 100% accurate when you said it starts with the individual. And I'm just wondering, have we lost, as an American society, have we lost the motivation to want to change on an individual level? Because everything seems so tied into social gathering nowadays.
I think that people want to change. They may not know how to change.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
So if all you see in your life is nothing but negativity, then that's what your environment becomes, is negativity. So if a person can't see beyond that, I'll give an example. I grew up in the city of St. Petersburg, Florida, okay? And if you went past, I grew up in the south side part of St. Petersburg, Florida, okay? So
I know, if it was the south side or the west side, it was the bad side.
Okay, so the dividing line was Central Avenue, okay? So that was like the railroad tracks, okay?
Yeah.
So with that being said, most people didn't go beyond that line.
Right.
So until you had a person who says, I know there's got to be more than this, and my life doesn't have to be this, then they are the visionaries of tomorrow. They are the visionaries of that day.
You're right.
So then the visionary has to be able to bring it back to the people and say, look what I just saw. It's more to what we see here.
Well, right.
So,
that's That's how it was for me growing up in the hood, as we call it. It was amazing. Now it's amazing for me to look back and say, man, was I the only one in my circle anyway that was really looking outwardly and saying, look, I'm getting the hell up out of here. There's got to be more than this.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
in reality, in my circle, my direct circle, not my whole neighborhood, but my direct circle,
right.
I was. And that's how it is. And that's something that transcends race, because that's not just a black community thing or Hispanic community or a white community.
Correct.
There's people in all
Correct.
communities that have not moved beyond their own their own imposed borders. And seeing some diversity. And it's like, you're in America. You can go anywhere the hell you want in these states. So
right.
You're exactly right. Basically, the visionary gets lost behind their own mental barriers.
Right. But the visionary who breaks free, I believe they have a responsibility.
You're right.
To be able to go back to their community and communities at large.
Isn't that
and
the
be
whole
able
reason?
To say,
isn't that the whole reason we're chosen to do so?
Yes, exactly. But I want to go back to something else, though, because we talked about social media. Remember I said to you this is something that has happened over time.
Yeah.
When you look at youth that have been given cell phones, they're sitting in a social setting. Meaning I'm sitting here, we're in a circle together. You're my friend.
I know where you're going.
But I can't talk to you in my circle. I'd rather get on a text and text to you something that used to be like what we're doing here, conversation.
Exactly.
Versus so what have we done? We've broken down again another level.
Yeah.
Another level of connection, another level of compassion and understanding. So I
and that's it right there.
So,
compassion, companionship. That's exactly what's going on, because we are literally wiping out normal forms of communication that take companionship.
Yes.
Yes. That's scary.
And so, and whether it is a husband and a wife, or, you in a relationship with someone and you're sitting right across the way from them.
Yeah.
And what's the first thing they pull out? They pull out their cell phones and they want to start texting or going doing some research. Our work lives have filtered into our home lives. The computer and the computer world has now been brought into the homes, which has become another distraction away from family.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. On my street, I get a kick out of watching the new neighbors that have moved in a couple houses down. They put out a basketball court, and finally I see kids outside playing basketball and running around. One of them knocked on my door and ran last week, and I'm like, you know what, that's cool. I'm glad to see that. Just don't keep making me get up.
The things we used to do.
Right, but because that had gotten lost.
Yes.
My block would just be empty in the summertime. It's like, what in the world is going on? And now it can barely get warm fast enough for the kids to come out and play ball and knock on people's doors, and I love it.
Yes, because if you remember when we were kids, when did you come home?
Oh, when the street lights came on.
When the street lights, you better be home before the street lights came on.
Right.
So we've gotten away from that, and I get it. Safety. Our homes, our communities have not always been like it was back in the day when you didn't have to lock your doors, and when families and moms and dads could, feel good about allowing your kids to freely go play without them feeling like they're going to get kidnapped. So we've become so.
Didn't we give that away when we lost the compassion, the companionship, the empathy, and broke down communities? That relationship we had with our neighbors, didn't we kind of give that away by I don't know the exact reasons, but I know we got away from community. When I was a kid, your neighbor would go tell your family if you acted up. Your neighbor might spank you and then go tell your family why they did.
Exactly. So I think
did
what
we lose that on our own?
I think we did. And let me tell you, I can tell you when I felt the change in my community. And I can't speak for everybody's community. Mm-hmm. I can speak for mine. When you had new moms that were, like I set up under the elders of my community. True. So I felt like they've learned something, they know something. I need to gain knowledge from what they know. Yeah. So I went to them. But then you had young moms who had children, and if somebody then said something to them, the first thing they would say is, "Don't say something to my child."
Yeah.
So then you got away from then you got away from that, because then I know how to raise my child. Well, then we got away from the village. It takes a village to raise our children. So then what happened? We talked about, many times we talk about taking prayer out of the schools or taking the whole concept of God, because many families weren't going to church anymore. So you had to rely on your own knowledge versus and your own understanding, because the Bible says lean not into your own understanding. So by saying that is you don't have it all to know how to get through life. So we took God away from many things, but now we need to draw back. So what happened? When you remove yourself from God, mayhem takes place.
Yeah, definitely.
So
that's
what did
true.
we see? The dynamics, because most people were in church. I'm not sitting here telling you some of them kids that was in church were not bad kids, or they were doing things that they didn't have any business doing. But their mothers dragged them to church.
Yeah.
And so it gave them a sense of purpose and gave them a sense of understanding that, listen, there's consequences to everything that we do. I'm trying to give you a foundation, because without a foundation, we are sinking sand. And what we've seen across our nation is a sinking sand. We are sinking as a nation. We are sinking as families. We are sinking. And so how do we come out of that sinking? It is going back to the beginning, reintroducing ourselves to the I am that I am, the creator of all. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Israel, to be able to introduce yourself back to him. Because like I said, people know about the Holy Spirit, but you got to understand the one who sent the Holy Spirit, which is Jesus. And in order to understand Jesus, you got to understand the one who sent Jesus, and that is the Father. Right. So, you got to build that relationship.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You are definitely right. It's hard to shut me up, but you definitely do a great job at it. Well, because you speak knowledge. No, you speak knowledge, and I'm always willing to hear knowledge. And you definitely speak knowledge. I almost hate to switch gears into the next subject because because of what we're talking about, and it's like, man, maybe I should have talked about this next subject first.
It's okay.
Well, that's why I kind of zoned out when you would, like right at the end, I'm like, okay, I can tell that she's finna wrap up this part. Like, how do I segue into this one now? Because you got all emotional.
Well, it brings things back into perspective of ownership.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I think this part right here that you're getting ready to segue into talks about just that and understanding the pain that has happened. So I'm going to let you take over.
Well, yeah, and we're referring to the school shooting in Ocala, Florida, that really didn't get much national attention. And it was strange when I saw the media spin on it, because it was inaccurate, and it was like the media, I don't know if they were trying to build up the case for school resource officers to be armed in the schools or not, but they had it seeming like the school resource officer, charged in after he heard gunshots and apprehended the assailant, when it didn't go down like that. And that's how me and you started talking about it. And I just want to get your perspective on that, on the media spin, and because I don't think that they're helping these situations. Because when I heard about the shooter, Boucher is his last name,